Canada has spoken at the ballot box, ushering in a new political chapter with Mark Carney stepping into the role of Prime Minister. As the former central banker takes the reins of a Liberal minority government, questions loom over his economic priorities, political strategy, and the path forward both at home and on the world stage. With a high-stakes meeting scheduled with U.S. President Donald Trump and the upcoming G7 summit in Alberta, all eyes are on how Carney will navigate Canada's shifting domestic and international landscape. To break down what comes next, we're going to turn to Brendan Caldwell, director at Caldwell Securities Limited. Brendan, thanks for joining us today.
Interesting times, Theresa, interesting times.
Now, Canada has voted. What's next for Prime Minister Mark Carney here?
Well, next he's going to be on a plane to Washington, I understand. But I think if you mean bigger picture, I think the national unity question is the single biggest one. I think if he is serious about working with an aspect of humility and working with the entire country, there are roughly 42% of the country that voted for the opposition, the loyal opposition, Conservatives, and that was a very regional vote. His home province of Alberta went strongly blue, as to no one's surprise, and it's going to be an important thing for the entire country to believe that we are in fact united. It's not just what's nice to have right now, because there is a willingness on the part of certainly America, but I think even more globally, to find weaknesses, to find fissures, divisions nationally, and to work on separating those. So it would be in our national interest for the Prime Minister to do what he can to genuinely build unity. It is not going to be enough to say, as has been the custom on both sides of the House, to say that, well, we're united Canada, except for those people over there, except for the people with unacceptable opinions. That's a very U.S. style. We were brought together as a nation because I think that we have more in common coast to coast than our neighbors to the south have, coast to coast or north to south. I think there's actually a great deal of uniformity across languages and regions in Canada, and the tyranny of small differences, I think it would be ill-advised to play on those at this time.
And if you did have his ear right now, we've talked about Alberta. What would you tell him to do in order to deal with Alberta and making these calls to potentially separate from Canada?
I don't think that government is the answer to absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. It's been increasingly the case that if there's a problem, the government should do something about it. Governments are really only good at doing things that for whatever reason, individuals or communities or provinces aren't good at doing on their own. Defense, international negotiations, these sort of things. But the actual growth of an economy is not something that a government is good at. Governments actually don't grow economies because the money to do what the government does needs to come from somewhere else in the economy. So I would suggest that if the new government could do one thing, it would be to make it easier for businesses to operate. And I think that's in large measure what Alberta is saying. We have these businesses, they happen to be in the energy sector. Give us the freedom to do what we can do, to build pipelines, to dig mines, to do the things Canada's been historically good at and what we've built our economy on. So I think to the extent that Mr. Carney is able to make good on some of his election promises and make it easier for businesses in Canada to function, I think that'll go a long way to appeasing a lot of the national unity question, but also to making it possible for us to be much more united. If we're invested in a country, well, it's like that fellow out of Nazareth said many years ago, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
And what do you believe he should do politically here, given that the Liberals have a minority government?
I think it's a minority that will function as a majority, more or less. We've seen the Liberals work as a majority for the last 3 or 4 years. That the most recent tenure they could effectively do as they wished, with only needing 3 or 4 votes from someone. If I were to actually make a suggestion, this may seem implausible given the current political environment, I would suggest crossing the floor and seeing what Liberals and the Conservatives can work on together. It has been said of Mr. Carney by a lot of Conservatives that he would have made a tremendous Conservative Prime Minister. So I think that there may be more in common between the two parties than perhaps there has ever been, well, at least in recent memory. So I would say finding commonality that we can work on together rather than seeing it as an us and them, us being simply the Liberal Party and the them being not just the Conservative Party, but the public in general. If us can mean Canada, all of Canada, then I think that'll go a much longer way than this partisanship that we've seen to this point.
Now, Prime Minister Carney is set to meet with President Trump tomorrow. Do you believe that with Trudeau gone and Carney in, that this will reset the Canada-U.S. relationship, or do you think that that relationship is just tarnished?
Oh, I think a lot can be done. I think with Mr. Trump, a lot of it's personal, and our former Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, went out of his way to insult the president in ways that were just, there's no other word for the juvenile. I think, yes, Mr. Carney will do a better job of that, of maintaining a relationship, repairing a relationship. Just dealing businessman to businessman should go an awfully long way.
And Mark Carney has also made a few comments about Donald Trump during his campaign and stuff. So in your mind, where does it differ from what Trudeau said to what Carney said, and how is it a bit better?
Oh, well, I think in the specific instance of Mr. Trudeau, he was all friendly with Mr. Trump, and then while the cameras were rolling, talked smack about him behind his back, which is like you would do in school, or one might do in school. So when is going eyeball to eyeball with someone and saying something straight to them is very different. But I think the main thing Canada has to do, and Mr. Carney really needs to do, is help define what Canada wants to be, independent of what Mr. Trump wants us to be. We can't define ourselves whether we're not are or not the 51st state. Canada is for Canadians, and to the extent that he can help us develop a unified platform, irrespective of what our neighbors to the south are saying, I think that'll go a long way to strengthen our relationship, not just with America, but with the rest of the world.
Well, Brendan, as always, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you, Theresa.